So along the same lines of email data, there's another place for it, which is how that email can be used to, how that data can be used to make for better experiences when you're communicating with your customers and beyond. So Joshua Baer is going to talk about the personalization side of email data.
Great.
Josh.
And do we have Owen and John? I saw John. Owen, coming on up. Great. Unfortunately, Damien, our other panelist, is in his hotel room right now, not feeling very well and able to leave. So I feel bad for him. He came here from Austin. I know him really well. I'm sure he would be here if he could be. So it's just going to be the three of us. Thanks. Great. So this is the death of email campaigns. And this will probably be a little quicker because, one, because we're running late, and because Damien's not here. But I think it's an interesting topic and something that hopefully is all on your radar already. But most email software out there, like Constant Contact or Exact Target, we'd call those email service providers, or ESPs, have this concept of like a list of email addresses. And then you schedule emails or blasts to go out to the list. Maybe if you're really sophisticated, you segment the list. You break it up into demographic fields and send one thing to males and another thing to females. Or maybe you tie it into actions on your website. Someone does something and it causes them to get an email. But at their hearts, they're really designed around this concept of a list and a blast. And this type of mail is very useful. It's worked really well, and it's been useful to millions of businesses. It's not going away. But there are new solutions out there that really focus more on the life cycle of a customer and sending email more intelligently to them and personalizing the frequency and the content based on the interests and the actions of each user individually. So everyone up here has a solution that changes that way that you send, and it lets you think about it in a different way. And so we're going to talk about those a little now. So starting on my right here, John Allison is the founder and CTO of Customer.io. We're all I.O. up here today, which makes it easy to email your customers based on what they do or what they don't do in your app. And so this is kind of app-focused. Prior to that, he spent many years at New York-based startups, such as the Guild Group and Challenge Post, honing his skills and experiencing firsthand a lot of these pains that led to Customer.io. Eoghan McCabe has always been making things for people who make things. So he's a developer's guy. His last company was called Exceptional and was sold to Rackspace. And with Intercom, his goal is to help those who run an online business of any size or type connect better with their customers. And so they're replacing traditional help desks and marketing products with this one simpler platform. So, John, if you want to start, we'd love to have you kind of just tell us a little bit more about Customer.io and how you got into this and how you think about email campaigns a little bit differently.
Sure.
Is it on? Up. There you go.
Yeah, so test. There we go. Yeah, so as Josh said, we mainly do email campaigns based on user behavior and activity on your sites. And a few use cases that people use this for, one common one is for really smaller companies who really value qualitative feedback from early potential customers. So a lot of things they do with us is sending out a simple "how can I help" email from their CEO 35 minutes after someone signs up, or a few days later if they notice someone who got stuck in the process of getting started. And a lot of these people report 15 to 20% response rates. And this candid feedback from potential customers is very valuable to them before they have enough data to really make data-driven decisions. Another one of our customers, Shopify, which is an online platform for online stores, where you can add products and launch a store, and they'll handle all the selling and all that stuff for you. They use us for onboarding new stores onto their platform. And a particular campaign they run is they'll send out a coupon for advertising credits on Google AdWords and Facebook. If someone signs up, adds products, but doesn't pay and launch the store. And they see an 18% conversion rate from people who receive that email to who eventually pay and launch their store. And one of the cool things, I think, as a technical guy about Shopify is they've been doing these types of emails for years through their own internal system. And when they switched to Customer.io, they were able to put the ownership of updating and maintaining and testing those campaigns in their marketing team's hands. And their dev team was able to delete a bunch of code, which they always like to do. So yeah, that's me.
Cool. Owen, you want to tell us a little about Intercom?
Sure. So Intercom is a little bit different. It's a simple, general, kind of integrated approach to a lot of different kinds of communications. So I guess customer communication to date has been achieved through a collection of tools, whether they're help desks or traditional email marketing, which might be more campaign-oriented. Even some of the marketing automation tools is a separate tool. And we think for a large component of the market, specifically this new generation of internet companies, a lot of them are mobile, that these point solutions, these individual tools, overserve the market. And the kind of example that I use, the analogy I use, is the iPhone. It's kind of an easy analogy because it has worked so well as a business. But when the iPhone shipped, it shipped as a shit phone with a shitty battery, with a shit browser, and a shit email client, and a shit camera, and a shit GPS system, and a shit iPod. But it turns out that integrated, it allowed a new set of simple workflows. It allowed you, for example, to check in at a restaurant and take a picture of a meal, upload it to Yelp, and send a link to your friend. These things, these simple workflows never could have happened before with the point solutions. Imagine a digital SLR and a laptop and a MiFi device and a GPS. Not going to happen. So when you integrate things in a much simpler fashion, new magical workflows become enabled. And some of those workflows for us involve helping customers, customer support. Some of them are reaching out to make announcements about new features. Some of them are automatically talking to people as they sign up. Some of them are asking people for feedback. And what you find is when you give people these new kinds of platforms that are flexible and easy to use by anyone in a company, and it was cool to hear John's story about the marketing team actually using Customer.io instead of the engineers, is that people themselves can be the creative individuals they've always wanted to be, unconstrained by these hardcore tools. So a cool example we've seen is Heroku. They use automated emails or automated in-app messages powered by Intercom, not for marketing purposes, but to solicit feedback in certain ways. So when they roll out a new product feature, anyone who uses it once but doesn't come back, they'll automatically reach out and say, hey, we saw you used our new dashboard, that's awesome, why didn't you use it again? I think that's really creative and kind of cool, and I think that there's a lot to be spoken about when it comes to like email campaigns and personalization outside of marketing. And so, this integrated approach has facilitated a whole range of stuff, and that's one example, but our mission always has been around making web business personal. We truly believe that the future of the internet will be more personal and personalized, so I was excited to speak about this today.
Great. So hey, let's talk about Heroku a little bit more for a second. So just to help people understand, so with the traditional email software, I upload my list, I go create a new email. It looks kind of like creating a new email in any other program. There's a from and a subject and a body, and I type all those in, and I pick which list it's going to go to, or maybe target it, and then I hit send. How do you set up the Heroku email you just talked about?
For sure. So allow me to give a kind of obscure, weird analogy first. So we're currently looking for a new office space in Dublin. We have our product teams in Dublin, Ireland, and marketing and sales and stuff in San Francisco. And there's two types of spaces we're looking at. One is a big single floor, and one is 2 floors. And the reason that we are very much stepping away from 2 floors is that even though it's really not that much work to run downstairs or jump in an elevator, when things get sufficiently hard, people just stop doing things. And so different types of ad hoc interactions within teams, I think, are prevented when people are split amongst different floors. Silly, it's not that much harder to run down the steps, but there's a certain threshold where it's just not worth it. It's just not worth saying, hey, John, do you have 2 seconds? Rather than be like, fuck. Hey, John, are you around? And whatever. The exact same thing happens when you make a tool easy to use and it's connected and it's integrated. So back to the Heroku example, and specifically thinking about the fact that you don't have to work with engineers. Again, the old world was, going to your engineers, guys, you're super busy. I know that security fuck up just happened yesterday also. I'm sorry, one more favor.
Right.
Would you generate that list of all email addresses of premium users who've logged in the last 7 days who've not yet used our pro plan who've spent less than $1,000. Okay, forget the $1,000.
And by the way, can you do it again tomorrow too?
Exactly.
Right.
And like maybe you get that on Wednesday, and maybe they ran the right thing, maybe they didn't. Not their fault. They're fucking busy, and you've got these obscure little requests. So maybe they've got the wrong addresses, and you're like, shit. Either way, the moment they generate that and stick it in an email, it's out of date. And this is that example of things that just get too hard. They're just too hard. It's just not worth it go to your engineering team or to just start to distract them. So you just don't bother. So what happens is people are just not as creative as they naturally would be. People who start internet businesses, people who work in internet businesses, they're naturally inventive and innovative. They want to do all this cool stuff, but they're constrained by their tools. And so if you've got a great tool like John's or like Intercom's tool that just lets everyone in your team just experiment and be creative and easily say, okay, show me all my premium users. Show me my premium users in this time zone who are in the product in the last hour. Or with Intercom, you can say, show me the people who are online right now are premium users. Let's send them a message right now. It just facilitates new magical things. And that's why Heroku do things like automated feedback requests, because it's easy.
So how would they set that up?
Yeah, so you go into Intercom. Intercom is installed in your product, a little piece of JavaScript. And then when you log in...
Does that be like on every page?
Correct.
Okay.
When you log in, you can see all your users. And anyone on the team can like start to filter them and segment them. You're effectively running queries, but you know, it doesn't look like queries. You're saying, show me everyone who was here in the last 7 days, who was on a pro plan, who has used this feature
When
once.
you say everyone that was here, so you maybe select a page or something,
Exactly.
or like
Select a
basically
page or
the
a
landing
feature, an
page of that
event.
new feature.
It's exactly
anyone that's
right.
been to this and
That's
hasn't
exactly
come
right.
back.
So you're really just like creating little segmented lists, and you could like save them as a segment, or you could tag them. Really, really quick to actually create that list, and then you could select them all or a few people, hit message, the message screen pops up, you type the message. Because we've got all that data and it's all integrated, you could say, hey, first name, you know, thank you for using Heroku with your app name, you know?
Yeah.
It's that easy, and then you hit send and it'll go out by email, or it'll go up in the product or a push notification or whatever.
Great.
Yeah.
So John, you were at Guild Group. They were a big emailer, and you know you've done their stuff too. You know, were you seeing these same problems? Did you send those kinds of emails? Like,
yeah, so if anyone, just a brief overview on Guild, if you're not familiar, they do online flash sales, and every day at noon they launch a bunch of new sales. And so the main driver for a lot of their business is sending an email out 11:45, telling people about the sales that they're interested in. And you know, hopefully everyone gets that email and opens it and clicks in and buys stuff. I think a lot of the problems at Guild when I was there was organizational. So when I was there was probably 50 to 75 people in the engineering team, and maybe 15, 20 people in the marketing team. And only one developer would really ever help out the marketing team to get what they want done. And there was so much frustration with the marketing team wanting to do really awesome stuff, wanting to do cool things, and then not really have the support from the engineering side. Engineering's busy, like Owen said, improving the product, doing their core scaling problems and things like that. That there just wasn't enough bandwidth to also do all the marketing things, even though it was a huge business priority for Guild. And just that disconnect between the two groups is a lot of what we wanted to solve in Customer.io.
So does this stuff work? Like, how do you know it works? Like, besides, or is it just additive? Like, is this replacing other stuff you would do before, or is this just adding more types of communication emails you can send?
Yeah. So I think there's a place for a lot of different types of communication. I think especially for applications online, where you want to have more of a relationship with your customers, and there's a process that people need to go through to get value out of your product or whatever the case may be, there's a really nice use case for sending out these very contextual emails that go out as the user's struggling through your product or gets stuck or whatever the case is. In addition to, your typical batch and blast. I mean, we do a newsletter ourselves that's based on like how to write better emails. My co-founder Colin,
it's
every
a
week,
super awesome email. Like, seriously, one of the best email newsletters I get.
Yeah, and that kind of fits the case of sending out a blast email. once a week with new information or trying to start a conversation about a particular topic about copywriting. So so I think there's cases for a lot of different of those types of emails, yeah.
Cool. And so, Owen, this isn't just about email, right? Like, it seems like a lot of this would apply to all kinds of messaging. Is that something, is your app primarily email app? You message push notifications? How else is it doing those things?
So
am I getting all those? Am I getting like an email and a push notification? Like,
yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I think, this is naturally an email conference, and we're interested in exploring the ideas around email. Either we're pot committed and we're in the email business, or we still know that there's a lot to be benefited from email. Thinking more broadly, the problems that are essentially trying to be solved here are communicating with customers, connecting with customers, selling to them, understanding them, all of these things. And, within anything in life and in business, framing the problem with such a tight set of specifications will rule out a lot of opportunities. I think marketing, for example, is very much a challenge of finding new ways, new things, new opportunities to stand out. And so if you just say, all right, what can we do with email? You kind of, you're blinded, you're blinkered. And that's especially in the context of just massive sea changes we're seeing. I mean, broadly speaking, the effectiveness of email has been, going down.
Meaning down. Open rates going down.
For sure.
Yeah.
And, it's recently, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there are these new technologies, be it sale-through or customer.io, or even before that, really stuff like Eloqua and Marketo and ExactTarget and whatnot. We have seen open rates kind of go a little bit up. I think that's just generally people using these new technologies that weren't available before, and of course personalization will mean that messages are more relevant, and open rates and click-through rates and all that kind of good stuff will go up. But broadly speaking, emails have been becoming less effective. And on top of that, they are used more than ever before. Like I think the history of marketing is one where opportunities to disrupt your customer is exploited until it's useless. That's the history of marketing, right? Think of anything, any new channel. Like great marketing people jump on new channels quicker than anything else. Promoted tweets or LinkedIn ads. If you talk to like great VPs of marketing, they'll always think of these new things first because they're just not exploited and the consumer is not jaded. But now more than ever before, there's no more marketing mails. We're receiving it in different times. They're automated and personal. We're kind of used to that too. Maybe we're asleep because all of these services we're using are global, sent in different time zones. They're on our phone. Most messages we receive are like through our email client on our iPhone or whatever. And I just think that there's now new opportunities to connect with customers outside of email. Email is a great place of last resort, in my opinion, when someone has become disengaged with the product. Or email can be very, very useful when the message that you want to communicate is timely. If you want to make an announcement now, or if you really need to notify someone about something urgent, you would want to use email. Email is still like the backbone for those kind of communications. But there's a broad range of other things, including personalized content in a product. If you look at something like Optimizely, really what Optimizely is about is it's a personalization company. If you look at Sale-Through, they're about personalizing landing pages and email. If you look at companies like Urban Airship, they're about push notifications and making rules for push notifications. The whole of the ad tech industry is in the business of personalization. Intercom itself does in-app messages. So, of course, we do email, but we actually find that the in-app messages that we facilitate for our customers are far more effective. They're in the context of the product itself. They come in thinking about your app. You talk to them about your app. They'll respond. So I'm just, I'm not attacking email in any way whatsoever. I'm trying to be a little bit careful.
Because if you did,
here.
You might not make it out of here.
You're right. You're exactly right. But I got my eye on the exit, so I can run. But the point is, let's not screw ourselves here.
Yeah,
There's other opportunities, other channels.
And for what it's worth, I mean, obviously, email is something everybody can, is a connotation more than a definition. Certainly for me, I think of email as electronic messaging, and I think of it pretty broadly. I think many of these things share at least a lot of these same characteristics. So I want to put you guys on the spot for a minute. I didn't tell you this question was coming, but we've got a lot of email app developers here making mobile apps and web-based apps and services. For each of you, what's an example of an email that they probably aren't sending right now, but they really should be. Like if you go, what's a like low-hanging fruit, high-value email, you should go implement this thing tomorrow and do this because it's easy and it's going to produce a really good result.
I have two really fun ones.
All right.
One is, and it's kind of marketing and product related, and we've been doing it for a long time, and you could use John's product, you could use my product or different products, you could code it yourself. Simply asking people what their expectation is when they sign up. Like it's got nothing to do with drip feed marketing or anything, but simply saying, hey Josh, thanks so much for signing up for customer.io. We're really, really excited. Quick question, what are you expecting out of us? And that really, 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 really clarifies how you're positioning yourself. Amazing, really should, you just do it. And you can only do, if you want, you do it for like 10% of your customers. And just an ongoing thing. And as you like change your product, and as the market changes, and as your product marketing changes, that'll change over time. So that's a big one.
I assume you have to actually read the answers too.
Nah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you have to read the answers, and you should like look at them over time. Like if you use Intercom to do it, all the answers are connected to the question that you set up. So with Intercom, you can set up an automated message, and it's sending over time. Then you go back to that message, and you've got a full history of all the replies. Mm-hmm. Then the other one, which is really, really fun and sad, is automatically mailing someone when they cancel. And what we say is like, hey, we saw you quit. We're not trying to change your mind. If you would do us a favor and take 30 seconds to say how we screwed up, we'd really appreciate it. Again, mind-blowingly valuable.
What percent of people respond to that?
Like massive. It's a great opportunity for people to vent. It's a great opportunity for people to apologize. It's humbling and it's insightful. So these are like real two opposite mails. What are your expectations? Welcome, we're excited to see you. Sorry if we fucked up, goodbye.
Yeah. I think both those things probably apply to a new employee as well. You know, the best time to get feedback from an employee is the day that they leave.
Yeah, it's like briefing and on briefing.
Yeah. John?
Yeah, so I really like those use cases of grabbing feedback from people at different times. I think another one that's that a lot of our customers do, and I think is really valuable, is no matter how simple your product is or whatever, people are going to have trouble. They're going to get stuck somewhere. They're not going to use your product and be an active customer. You're going to have drop off on stages of your funnel if you track that, which you probably should, and KISS metrics or wherever. And each one of those steps along the path is a great way to timely send people emails to either help them out or understand what their problems are. So those are other steps where you can reach out and say, what's going on, how's it going, or send emails that are contextual to that step. Like, here's what's great about taking the next step and
so do you do that in customer? What's a very specific example?
So for customer I/O, we have a little bit of a heavy integration to get started, right? You have to integrate with your product by throwing a JavaScript snippet on your site or interacting with our API. And then you have to understand the information, use segmentation, and then start sending emails. So in both of those cases, if you register but don't integrate, we reach out to you after a few days and try to understand, why that is, or give you some help, as well as after you've sent us data and you just never sent an email yet. So all those places are great things to start a conversation with a potential customer that can lead to insight on your behalf, but also help them out to get value out of your product.
So kind of like I don't know if LinkedIn still does this, but it used to be with LinkedIn, there was like the thermometer of like, you're 10% complete setting up your profile, upload a picture, right? And tying that, but they never sent me an email saying, hey,
right,
you logged in, but you didn't finish it. Come upload a picture.
In a lot of ways, yeah, the gamification of that like setup or onboarding stuff, you have the same goals. You want to get everyone through that and getting value out of it. So a bunch of different ways to improve those conversion rates and things like that.
Cool. Well, we have time for probably just 2 or 3 questions. Is anybody from the audience doing this themselves, want to share examples of things that have worked for them, or have questions for the panelists?
I have a question, Josh. It's Des.
Hey, how's it going?
The question is, I'm loud, so I probably need to walk all the way over.
I'll repeat it.
So how do you guys play with marketing automation solutions? So like my company would be, it sounds like you're a great solution for segmenting and nurturing like a freemium model within our app, but we've already made heavy investment in Marketo and integration with Salesforce. There's a lot of dependencies. So could you comment on how you play with existing marketing automation solutions?
Let me repeat it. The question, just for the recording and for everybody else in case you didn't hear it, was, OK, this sounds great. I've already done this big integration with Marketo or something else. How do these things play together? Do I need to integrate you with Marketo, or does this just operate on its own? What's involved with that? Does one touch the other?
So for things like Marketo, we don't have a good solution for that yet, unfortunately. We have a few customers who use Salesforce in addition to us. And they'll usually, right now, use some type of third party to sync the data. Like Zapier.com, I think, is a common one where you can hook up different services, and Zapier will handle like forwarding the traffic along. There's
what is it that they're syncing across that? The customer lists, or?
Yeah, it can be like, usually it's like, if you're familiar with webhooks, they're like requests that go out of Salesforce or our product, and Zapier will receive those, and then once it receives it, you can do some custom logic and send it over to some other service, or you can create these like chains of flows, basically. Another one that I like and I recommend to people is Segment.io. I'm not sure if they have a
You just like it because it's a .io.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be a fan of all the IOs out there. But I'm not sure if they do anything with Marketo. I think they may. But basically it allows you to send your data to Segment.io, and then in Segment.io you can choose to send it on to Marketo or Customer.io or Intercom or any of the other analytics type providers out there.
A follow-on question, Josh. My product is named SamePage.io, so would it work better with your product because it's .io?
Oh, they're both IO.
I know,
You're fair.
either of them.
Yeah, I mean, if everyone has an IO, it's just streamlined.
All right.
It's perfect.
We got one at the mic.
Hi. I teach an online productivity class. So my business is obviously totally online, but it's a small business. It's only me. And I use like a free MailChimp account, and there's some personalization, but I always get the feeling that tools like this are for enterprise, or for big companies, big teams. Do you see some of these capabilities filtering down, or is that just MailChimp? I don't know.
And maybe like some examples, maybe what kind of price points do these things start at? What size companies you typically work with?
Yeah, I'd be happy to jump in there and tangentially answer this gentleman's question too. I mean, you know, I think kind of through the history of technology, as new waves and new generations of technologies emerge, they focus first on kind of the bottom of the market, the early adopters, the guys who haven't yet got a bunch of solutions. My answer to this guy was like, apologetically, we don't work with Marketo. You know, we don't. And that's kind of the way of the technology world. We work great for little guys. And specifically, what's super interesting is that with these kinds of products, take Customer.io. Customer.io is affordable in that, like, what's your like smallest plan?
Smallest plan is $75.
All right, so like $75, little piece of JavaScript, and you can figure it out yourself. Marketo is more expensive. You need to do a 4-hour webinar to fucking use it, and you need to provide professional services. So his product is for you, not Marketo, and so my product is also for you. But like, you know, all of these kinds of new types of technologies, the reason they are flourishing is that they're accessible to everyone else. These kinds of things, personalization, really all of this is personalization for everyone else. The enterprise guys have had personalization for years. So use it. You'll love it. And it starts at $49 a month.
We have an Inbox Love special today. Great. Is there one more question? All right. Well, we are going to wrap that, and is it break? And Jared's going to make a quick announcement. So thank you guys very much. And